Morning. It's a little bit chilly today out here in the woods. I decided to do a video, and I'm naming it, Is Your Brain Size of Squirrel? After living in these woods for 4 years, going on 5 years, I get to watch all the animals interact, and I watch their behaviors, and I think about my behavior and my programming. So when I watch these squirrels prepare for winter and hard times, cold times, and to get them through, and then a lot of the people that I know aren't really preparing for these tough times. So I'm wondering if their brain is smaller than the size of a squirrel. Now we have these programs that keep us where we're supposed to be. And we're being told things that aren't quite true. And so I started asking myself these questions of why we do things we do. And those things are basically called archetypes. They're like programs that we've been given to sustain life. Some are good through habits. An archetype is something like say, the media has programmed us to act a certain way. Our education system has taught us how to act a certain way in relationships. And for instance, Walt Disney has taught us to be, as men, to be saviors, and the knight in Shining Arbor, rescuing the damsel in distress. So that has kind of been our archetypes over the years. That's one type of archetype. There's thousands of them. So another archetype would be like a program to keep our heart running and our organs functioning. Those are programs that have been instilled in us, however we were created, as a memory, as a habit. So we're habitual beings, and our archetypes will run until we start to interrupt them. So what this is really about, what I'm talking about, is I want to talk about the banking system. About 12 years ago, I decided to learn something I knew nothing about, and that was money. So it took me way back to ancient Rome and Egypt, and I learned a lot of interesting things. I learned that most people don't know anything about money. You know how to make it, you know how to spend it, and maybe invest it. Okay. But do you really know how the system works behind the scenes? Probably not. My brain was the size of a squirrel's brain on that topic, which most people's are. We're programmed to do something called bread and circus, and the Romans knew how to control people through this term, bread and circus. Give the people bread, and give them the Colosseum, and they're completely happy. They won't question what the monetary system, government, is doing. Keep them fed, keep them relatively happy on whatever their term of happiness, their definition of happiness is. So I'm asking people to say, hey, ask yourself, is your brain the size of a squirrel? Do you know how things work on a rudimentary level? The banking system? Do you know what a derivative is? Do you know the laws that were passed by Congress for the bankers? Who runs the show? You think it's your president? No. They've divided and separated us for years through bread and circus. My team's better than your team. Ohio State versus Michigan State versus Ohio versus whoever, right? Divide us through race, divide us through politics, divide us through men and women. And the way they do this is through the media, the television, one of the ways. So what I've done was I turned mine off. Rarely will I watch anything. Where most people are addicted to drama. They've been trained to love drama and stay out of nature. So back to banking. We've been taught to invest in your 401k. Stock market always goes up. Real estate always goes up. And a lot of people have never really experienced a downturn, what's coming. They're not prepared. They think all the food just comes right from the stores. So, are you preparing like a squirrel? Do you have money, which the term money is defined as silver and gold? That's real money. Everything else is just a money substitute, as Rafi Farber says. Now, I started learning this about 12 years ago, and I knew nothing about it, so I started following the smart guys, what they were saying. Of course, you see CNN and MSNBC and Fox about what's going on in the monetary system. And it's all lies. Money has been inflated to where you can see how things in the grocery store are getting more and more expensive. And people don't really understand what inflation is. And the definition of inflation is the expansion of the currency supply. Currency is like paper, fiat paper. Okay? So if you can look at it like this, when we were kids, my parents would go out of town and my dad had whiskey, bottles of whiskey in the closet, right? In the whiskey closet thing. So what we would do as kids is we'd say, hey, they're gone, so let's party. So we would take that whiskey, we'd drink some, and then we'd fill it with water, right? So we started to dilute it. So after a while, it was like, hey, this doesn't have any effect. This whiskey has no effect on you anymore because it's so diluted. Okay. How does that relate to the money supply? In 1913, the Federal Reserve was created by J.P. Morgan and a lot of other guys. You can get this information through the book The Creature of Jekyll Island by Griffin. And so basically, we were using gold as money, which it is. And in 1913, they created the Federal Reserve, started creating the paper currency as well. They've had paper before, other governments for thousands of years. What that gives them the ability to do is, the government to do is to create wars and do whatever spending they want to have. So in 1913, you could buy a $20 gold piece and 1 ounce of gold for $20, $20, even exchange. And now that very same gold coin today, the exact same coin, carry it through up until now, 2022. That coin takes about $1,900 to purchase it. Okay, so why is that? Because they've diluted it. They've printed and printed and printed it, so the buying power is gone in the dollar. But you can buy about the same item as you could back in 1913 with an ounce of gold. So, is your brain the size of a squirrel? Squirrel's brain. About the subject. When you go to the grocery store 10 years ago, you could get a bit of food for $100, and now you get a couple of bags, right? Why is that? Because the currency supply has been diluted. So I asked people about gold and silver, and would you believe probably 0.5% of people have ever even heard of it and what it's for? And I asked myself, well, why is that? Why don't you think it's important that we know what this is for? Granted, yes, it has industrial uses and it has monetary value. There's a reason central banks have been acquiring tons and tons of gold. It's not an old relic like Warren Buffett said. Even though Warren Buffett's father was a huge gold and silver guy. But then, Warren Buffett plays in the fiat currency and the investment world, and that's where they want to keep you to keep your money in these risky paper diluted assets. So now you're seeing groceries and items that we need are going up and up and up. And they keep expanding the currency supply. Now, in a debt-based monetary system, like we're in, if the Federal Reserve does not continue to print money and loan it out, the system implodes. So you're going to see more spending, crazy spending habits, spending proposals by the government. They're going to create chaos and say, oh, we got to send money here. No, we got to send money here because the system's imploding. So there's going to come a time, may not be today, may not be next week, may not be next month, it may not be next year, that food is going to continue to get more and more expensive, and we're going to have a liquidity freeze up because the money is being printed into uselessness. Now, if you start studying monetary history, the countries that inflated all their currency, like Zimbabwe and Weimar Germany and Venezuela, Brazil, they've all done it. They've experienced hyperinflation. We're not quite in hyperinflation yet here, but we're just getting some strong inflation. The numbers might go up and down a little bit. But remember, inflation defined is the expansion of the currency supply. So we've loaned that, and we've given this money out all over the world. And what's going to happen is, someday, when all these other countries wake up, as they wake up, they're waking up now, to the fact that we're giving them useless dollars for their trinkets and dishwashers and car parts and whatever, all these products. They're going to say, wait a minute, this money's useless. We're not going to send these products anymore. So, is your brain the size of a squirrel, or is it smaller? Are you preparing for this? Because, quite frankly, I don't want you coming knocking on my door saying, hey, I'm starving to death. I tried to warn you for 10 frickin' years, 12 years. And people just are so normalcy biased that it's really an archetype they need to really think about and get educated on. You think everything's going to be fine? Maybe it will for most people. Some people. Most people it won't. That's already unfolding in Europe, the Middle East, Japan. It's just a matter of time for it to come here. So, anyway, if you want to get educated on this, my first Google, so to speak, 12 years ago, was I just typed in money, and up popped this guy named Mike Maloney. Goldsilver.com has a great series on the hidden secrets of money. I suggest listening to it. That was my first. There's many, many intelligent people out there that know this system and how it works. It's just all the timing's been off because the lies are getting greater from the so-called leaders, which they're not leaders. Anyway, I suggest you start getting educated so your brain gets a little bigger than the size of a squirrel. You have a great day today. Winter's coming, and I hope you guys are getting prepared. All right. Thank you. Have a good one.